This episode of Moontower Business is brought to you by your local State Farm agent, Alejandra de la Torre. Alejandra's team has amazing customer service, knowledgeable staff, and super competitive pricing. They also have a very convenient location in Round Rock, located at 2200 North A.W. Grimes Boulevard, Suite 500. Alejandra's team is bilingual, and they have over 52 years of combined experience in the insurance industry. Alejandra's team is very friendly and helpful, and they always go the extra mile. They even have after-hours emergency availability. So please call Alejandra's State Farm team for all of your insurance needs, whether it's auto, home, life, or business. Their telephone number is 512-244-3311, or you can see their website at www.alexdelatorre.net. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Moontower Business Podcast. This is your host, Joseph Obel, and today I'm speaking to Mayor Scott Conger in Jackson, Tennessee. Mayor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Joseph. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'd like to visit with you a little bit about how you've been embracing Bitcoin and the different things that you're talking about for the city of Jackson. But maybe before we kick off, you can kind of introduce yourself and tell listeners a little bit about Jackson, Tennessee, and a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for mayor.
All right. Fantastic. Well, above everything else, I'm a husband and a dad. I have a wife and a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so my family's been in Jackson for quite a while, since early 1800s. And I've been in Jackson my whole life. And it was, 27 years old, I decided to get involved in local politics and ran for city council, served there for 2 terms. And 2018, my wife and I sat down. And at that point, we had a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old, and an election was coming up for city mayor, and a lot of times in politics is opportunities and timing, and we started talking about Jackson, how much we both love Jackson and love being a part of Jackson, and what that looks like for our kids and the other next coming up generations, and we're really good at preparing for today. With our industry, with manufacturing, we're great for today's economy. But we have to look forward and prepare for tomorrow's economy and what that looks like for our kids, and so forth. And so we kind of thought, hey, do we want to just hope for the best, go about our daily lives and keep doing things, or do you want to be a part of the solution and part of building that foundation that, quite frankly, selfishly, that when my kids graduates high school, college, and they're looking for a place to put down their roots, they're choosing Jackson because it's a viable option for them, not because mom and dad guilted them into coming here and staying here. I don't want to have to travel, 2 hours, get on a plane to go see my kids and, future grandkids. I want to have them right around the corner. So that's what really led me to running in 2019 and got elected. And, the things that we talked about in the campaign, it's just been the things that we run the government on is transparency, efficiency, inclusivity, infrastructure, public safety, quality of life. One thing that we're working on is telling our story and kind of holding the pom-pom to cheer on Jackson, because we have so many great things going on. We just don't tell people. We were the first city in the state of Tennessee to run a gig fiber line to your home. So every resident has an opportunity in the city of Jackson to have gig fiber internet. We didn't tell anyone. And so city across the state was the second, but they told people. So now they're considered the first. And so I remind them, some people, when I talk to them, hey, I may say you're the first, but really you're the second. And so we have that great infrastructure of technological infrastructure to get that next generation economy and those businesses. But we got to show people that we're in Jackson, that we're ready for it, that we're here for it. And so how do we have that conversation on a broader scale, just out of saying, the chamber pitch, hey, come here, we're great. Our taxes are low, cost of living's low, no state income tax, all those chamber pitches. But what do we do to talk about how we are forward thinking and looking at the future and actually making plans for the future. I think that's where Bitcoin comes in to that alignment seamlessly and perfectly on how we do that and how we plan for the future.
That's excellent. And so what does the economy and kind of generally like the industry look like in Jackson today?
It's heavy manufacturing. We have several Toyota plants, automobile manufacturing, metal fab, things like that. That traditional manufacturing is moving into more robotics. I'm trying to remember the exact line, but there's a likelihood if you're driving a Toyota, I think, car, then some of the parts are from Jackson. And if you open a can of Pringles, the can and the chips from Jackson, Tennessee.
Wow. And that's cool. I mean, you got some great selling points for the city for companies and different businesses to consider moving there and setting up shop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're 2 hours away from Nashville, Tennessee. We're an hour from Memphis, Tennessee. You can fly from anywhere in the world from Jackson, Tennessee. So there's a lot of opportunities that we have to talk about. We have to get people excited about. And I think Bitcoin does a lot of that preparation for the future, not only to get people excited and future planning, but for us on financial sustainability for the city government to plan for the future as well.
Absolutely. So I guess when did you first start getting interested in Bitcoin, and then what kind of resources did you use to try to learn about it and kind of go down the rabbit hole? Man,
I think I'm very short into the rabbit hole, still learning, as much as I can every day. I think like everyone else, you feel like you're a late adopter, right? You feel like if you didn't get in, I had a conversation with another mayor on the other side of the state. He said, I kind of got a thing against Bitcoin. I knew about it when it was 5 cents, didn't buy it. And so you feel like you're kind of a late adopter, but I think on that bell curve, still very early on. Pandemic, it does a lot of things to us. We're not able to go out as much. And so we're either plugged into a computer screen or a cell phone. And I just started kind of looking at things. And what really got me interested in it from a municipal standpoint was watching what Mayor Suarez was doing in Miami. And, granted, admittedly, Jackson, Tennessee is not Miami, Florida. But it doesn't mean that we can't do the things on our scale that Miami's doing. And so a friend of mine locally here kind of really started the conversation about it at the municipal level, kind of tweeted at me jokingly. I love sarcasm. So he kind of sarcastic tweeted me about what Mayor Suarez was doing. And I sarcastically tweeted back about an altcoin. And then Maxie's piled on me. And so what it did was it opened up an opportunity for Mayor Suarez and I to have a conversation. So we started messaging, shared numbers and things like that. And so the more I watched, I thought, why not Jackson? Why can't we do that at the local level? Why can't we look at ways to adopt Bitcoin usage for our employees, to encourage businesses to do that? And so I think week after next, we're having our first blockchain task force meeting for the local level to see about what we can do. And at the bare minimum, what that looks like to start and to plan forward.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, as you know, Bitcoin in the past, when it first got started in 2009, it kind of had a dark cloud over it. Folks really kind of considered it something that criminals use, something that was used in the dark web. But that has changed over time, as you know, and it's people are really taking this seriously now and considering it.
Criminals use cash too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, I mean, things are completely different today in Bitcoin than they were when it first got started. And it's awesome to see folks like you that are taking this and trying to kind of run with it in their city, because I mean, governments before were never even considered doing this. And so hats off to you for really kind of leading the way on this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's interesting to kind of go through this and see that. And we have some things that we have to do at the state level to be able to do the things that I want to do at the local level. We have to get some legislation passed. Tennessee's laws on what local governments can hold on the balance sheet are very specific. They tell you what you can hold. And so if it's not on the list of approved list, then you can't hold it. So we have to get some things changed there next year in our legislative session. Because, my goal is we spend some dollars now, and we have some mining equipment. We have space here, very well ventilated space that we can mine in off peak times. Helps our local energy authority balance out their load. And then we can put that on the balance sheet and just start appreciating that asset.
That's great. So that was my next question. I saw some of the stuff that you tweeted about on Twitter regarding Bitcoin mining. And are your thoughts on this? The city actually mine Bitcoin and hold it on the balance sheet. Are you also in discussions with any companies or folks that are interested in coming to Jackson to mine Bitcoin as well?
So I can answer the first question a little more freely. The second question, not as much. But yes, we're interested in it. That was the early conversation that I had with folks. And I think I didn't answer your entire question earlier. The resources that I use are just conversations with people. I'm a firm believer in getting people around the table and in the room smarter than me on subjects. Luckily, in a lot of subjects, that's very easy for me to find people smarter than me, and just have that education. And one of the conversations led to, hey, have you thought about mining? I mean, if you plug in some mining, you allow energy authority. We have a local energy authority, allow them to balance out their load, put it on the balance sheet. Doesn't cost you much more than what you're paying in energy now because you're just equalizing everything. And we have some, closed landfills here that have some burn off. We can trap that and use that for generation. We can do that as well. And so that's what really started the mining at the municipal level for us to hold on the balance sheet. 'Cause I think that's low cost to entry. And then the return on investment is huge. The upswing is a huge potential for us. And so, we're also looking at and had a conversation with some companies about mining here locally as well, too.
That's great. Has there been any conversations about the different options for mining, such as renewable energy like solar and utilizing like oil and gas industry for that as well?
So we're, West Tennessee, we're a little far away from that. So we have some methane burn off. We're powered by TVA. So on the other side of the state, we have some nuclear plants. South of the state here, we have some hydro generation. And so our energy cost is fairly low. It matches everything else, property taxes and cost of living. So I think there's, you got to start somewhere. I think we can talk to them about the renewable sources and how we can get more creative on providing that energy as we start the snowball down the hill and actually get some miners in here. And then we can start having those conversations about what that looks like and what we really can do at the local level to encourage it, to incentivize it, and provide a clean, renewable way to do that. Very good. And how about your constituents? Have you connected with some constituents that are passionate about Bitcoin, and what kind of feedback are you getting? I've connected with constituents passionate about it. I've connected with constituents passionate against it. So I think that's another hurdle and that we have to get over is that education piece and what that looks like. And there's still people, if you can't hold it, then it's not real. It's going to be one of the task force, kind of what we're going to talk about is how we can start the education, how we can utilize that, because we're also working on a financial empowerment piece. We're one of 5 cities in the country to get a grant to do that, to financially empower people. And I think this makes a great transition and an added piece to that program of, 86% of people in the United States have access to a smartphone. That's all you need. And so if we can get some DCA going on with people and understanding that you put in what you can, if it's $1 a day, $5 a day, and then don't do like I do and look at the price every 5 minutes, but, put it away, don't think about it, and utilize that DCA to increase your wealth. Because long-term, I think it's a lot of it too, the short-term volatility, until you get to that mass adoption and mass utilization, there's going to be those 10,000 swing days up and down. But you take a step back and look at, in the past year was a 280% the increase. So it's the focus of day to day, what the volatility looks like, as opposed to stepping back and looking year to year and long term on how that asset appreciates and to have that conversation, because people get sucked into that short term volatility, and it's scary, and you don't understand it. And it's scary, and you also think that you got to have now $49,000 to buy Bitcoin. They don't understand the breakdown of the unit of buying sats to be able to do that as well. And so there's a lot of educational opportunity to get that adoption going on. No doubt. It's actually, it's very easy to get scared when you see $10,000, $20,000 dips in the market. But if you zoom out and you look at the overall history since the beginning of time, 2009, when it got started, you can see it's been progressively going up, and it is a little bit of a roller coaster, but it's going up consistently. I don't know any asset that in 12 years has gone from a nickel to $50,000. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So you talked earlier a little bit about legislation regarding Bitcoin adoption, I guess, with the city. So I guess right now it's not allowed to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Is there stuff in the works right now to change that?
Yeah, that's what the task force is going to be. Kind of their first two things I'm going to talk to them about that's on my mind and on my to-do list is working with our legislators locally, statewide, to see what that looks like. I think we have some legislators that are interested in kind of carrying that bill forward, and we have some local governments that are interested in seeing that opportunity as well. And so, in the interim, what we're looking at is our employees here at the city level. They have retirement. They also have a deferred compensation option that they can pay in themselves for an IRA. And so we're looking at a third option for them if they want to pay in and have payroll deduction to invest in Bitcoin. And so we're paying them US dollars because we can't hold Bitcoin. And then they have the option to utilize that to use payroll deduction to hit that into their account and their wallet and then DCA it from that way.
Excellent. You said you also spoke to Mayor Suarez about what he's doing in Miami. What kind of things are you hearing from him about, generally what they're doing and what you learned from that?
Yeah, so we spoke briefly about just kind of, opportunities and, just what that looks like. And so the rest of it's been kind of watching each other on Twitter and commenting and sharing each other's posts and stuff like that. And, he's doing a phenomenal job. I mean, they're hosting, Bitcoin 2020 in Miami. So, and just the attraction, the attention, and the economic growth from leaning into that is phenomenal. So I think, like I said, we're not Miami, but I think at our scale, at a Jackson level, we're a population of 68,000. We serve about 400,000 in our service area. So, any given day, we're 120, 130,000 here. So we can scale that, and we can do the things similar on a scale that's good for Jackson.
How about other elected officials? I mean, have other mayors been reaching out to you, or other state officials in Tennessee or other states to talk to you about Bitcoin and potentially putting it on other cities' balance sheets?
Yeah, so I had a conversation with Mayor Jacobs in Knox County. You may know him as Kane from WWE. And so we talked a few weeks ago, and he's interested, and I think he's looking at establishing a task force as well. And so we just kind of shared some preliminary information and let the lines of communication open, that if we think of something that will benefit each other, that we can share it and see where we go. And I'm going to definitely reach out to him but when we start to look at getting the legislation amended to be able to hold it on the balance sheets at the local level.
Very good. And I mean, you've been tweeting about Bitcoin. Obviously, the Bitcoin community on Twitter loves you. I heard your interview on the Bitcoin Magazine podcast the other day. Have folks from the Bitcoin community been reaching out to you? What kind of stuff are you hearing? And are you going to be making more appearances on podcasts or different shows to talk about that?
Yeah, I made several appearances and people are reaching out. It's great. I mean, it's a great community that's welcoming and it gets you excited every time you talk to somebody. And so, my goal at the end of the day for me is very basic. When I go to sleep at night, I hope that Jackson's a little bit better than it was when I woke up. And so the more that I can talk with people about making those improvements and creating a sustainable financial future for our city, because we have some struggles just like every other local government. Right now, we're having to ask ourselves the question, or do we buy a fire truck, or do we pave streets? Do we buy police cars, or do we fix the HVAC at the police station? And so my goal is for us long term to get to where we're not having to ask that question. We're saying, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, because we set ourselves up financially to be able to do that at no additional cost to the taxpayers. Very
good. I guess what do you see as the future of Bitcoin? What does the future look like in 10, 20 years from now, you think? And do you think cities are going to be adopting it? Things like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Personally, I think adoption is going to have to happen from the local level. I've been saying that for months now. I don't think this is going to be a top-down adoption. It's so decentralized, and it's just brings the idea of self-responsibility and accountability to be involved. And so it's not going to be a federal government saying we're going to adopt it this way and this is how it's going to be. It's not going to be federally backed. It's going to have to be a localized adoption and then work its way up, I believe. And I think the more that you see that, then the more opportunities will happen. I mean, we're sitting here now in 2021 2 years for local government not really being able to plan financially, because you enter into, our fiscal year starts July 1. You enter in July 1 last year, and we're expecting revenues to drastically decrease because of people staying in, people not going out. But, to our surprise, multiple stimulus checks, panic buying, online shopping. We actually saw our revenues for sales tax increase over the previous year. We had planned for a decrease. And so how do you plan for that? And then you come to this year, we're planning for our budget. How do you plan for that just infusion? I call it a false infusion of cash for the last year into the economy. At some point, that's going to stop. It's going to taper off. It's going to decline, or it's going to flatten out. And so it creates it puts us in a difficult position to plan for the future when we budget, because it's just, you don't know when it's going to stop. You anticipate a huge deficit last year. We anticipated a $3 million deficit for this year. We're looking at a, nice surplus, revenue over expenses, because we cut expenses way back. We anticipated a drastic reduction in revenue. And so we kept our expenses down. Revenue went where it went, but that's going to stop at some point, right? I mean, it can't continue that way. And if it does, then I think our financial system as we know it will not survive sooner than later.
Yep. And Bitcoin really, it is the digital gold, right? And it's going to help fight inflation, and I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over time.
And the crazy thing is, see people talk about, well, it's backed by gold. Well, at some point in time, somebody picked up that little nugget and said, "Hey, this is worth something. We're going to use this," and so it's it's just a matter of time before something else is the standard.
Yes, sir. Mayor Conger, our podcast is based out of Austin, and I guess what message would you send to the mayor of Austin regarding Bitcoin and why the city should consider it, and why, maybe you can give a message to our listeners as well, why they should spend the time to learn about it and consider Bitcoin as well?
I think it's a great opportunity for financial security and empowerment and asset appreciation, wealth building, beyond manipulation. It's completely decentralized. You can't just go print more of it and get devalued. There's no inflationary reaction to it. And so we're looking at 4.2 for this year inflation. That means that your dollar is now worth less than it was a month ago. I think the biggest thing, the light bulb moment for me, was talking to a local friend who's in the fencing business, does, wood fences. And he said, if I look at prices in US dollars from last year to this year for materials, it's way more expensive. It's 200% more for US dollars. But if I look at it in terms of sats, it's actually way cheaper than it was last year. Wow. And so it counters that. And it's something that inflation is not going to manipulate. 21 million ever going to be mined. And so I think it's a great opportunity for sustainable, from a government standpoint, just being able to plan, knowing what you're going to have, knowing what it's going to cost, not having to plan for inflation. Get to that, when we get to that point, for us we're paying employees. Now if we don't give employees bonuses or raises, then what we're paying them now is worth less than what it was a year ago. They're actually getting a reduction in their salary if we're not giving them raises. And so there has to be a solution to that. We can't continue on that path.
Gotcha. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to follow what you're doing in Jackson. Hope everything works out with mining in your city. Appreciate everything you're doing. How can folks learn more about the city of Jackson and kind of follow you online?
Oh yeah, Twitter is Mayor Conger, and that's where I do the most conversation about Bitcoin, because other platforms, different audiences, and I don't like getting piled on too much. So, Mayor Conger, cityofjackson.gov. I'm sorry, that's not it. JacksonTN.gov is our website. We changed it last year. We have great opportunities. JacksonTN.gov is our city web page. JacksonTN.com is our chamber web page. And so you can see all the great things going on, all the opportunities going on. Facebook, Mayor Scott Conger, Twitter, I think, is Mayor Conger. Instagram is Mayor Scott Conger. So on all the larger platforms. And we talk about the good stuff that's going on in Jackson, cheer people on, and make sure everyone knows that Jackson's a great place to live. Jackson's a great place to be.
Awesome. And Mayor, are you running for re-election?
2023. I'm running for re-election. I hope I get re-elected. I'm not like probably most politicians. That's not on the top of my mind every day. That's not my number one goal, is to get re-elected. My number one goal is to make Jackson better and more sustainable for the future. And I'm hopeful that people agree with it, and that I get the opportunity to get re-elected in 23.
Excellent. Well, we're cheering for you. Hope it all works out.
I appreciate it.
Mayor Conger, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, sharing a little bit about yourself and what you're doing in Jackson, Tennessee, and keep hodling.
I appreciate it, Joseph. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Yes, sir. Take care. We'll see you.
This episode is brought to you by our affiliate Gemini. Gemini is a well-respected cryptocurrency exchange started by Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss. If you're interested in purchasing Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other altcoins, please check out their website at gemini.sjv.io/Moontower to learn all about it. Thank you.